the thought that you have, Mr. Johnson, for you to have to go buy a school, build it, put it together, when you got all this property sitting around that black folks own, just sitting there empty, lets me know that most of your thought leaders and those who know you all are so disjointed, you won't even work together with the resources you currently have.
A big reason why black people are behind, we do not collectivize our dollars at all. They sit in white banks, and these white banks take black people's money in Chicago and loan to white developers from out of town to come into Chicago and push us out of our own neighborhood.
Wow. All right. Anyway, you're listening to WVON 1690, the all-new afternoon show with Atiba Buchanan and LaDonna Ray. And as you guys know, we have our esteemed guest in studio, Dr. Ifa Tunde. And so we love, you guys were having this back and forth, but I want to go to these comments that are on our social media.
Definitely.
And it says, Stephen Stark said, great question regarding the how. We must continue to tweak the formula until we get it right. Can't keep doing same thing, expecting different results. There's formula for success, even formulas for failures. And worst of all is the formula for mediocrity, which is also the formulas we've become addicted to.
You better preach, Stephen.
Ooh, hallelujah. Past the collection plate. Well, we have more callers. Let's go ahead and grab Art.
Nope, I'm sorry, wrong call. There we go.
Hey.
Hey, Art.
Hey, what's going on, young people, and to your guests?
Hi.
Peace.
All right, I agree with all of the titles, but here's some contradiction that all of these so-called leaders and preachers and teachers and all you people who talk, you don't have to build anything. We have facilities that's already existing. Schools, we got restaurants that's closed down, like the Nation of Islam got a full restaurant that's been sitting there 10 years vacant. We got all of this resources, but the problem is that we don't come collectively together with the thought that you have, Mr. Johnson, for you to have to go buy a school, build it, put it together, when you got all this property sitting around that black folks own, just sitting there empty, lets me know that most of your thought leaders and those who know you all are so disjointed, you won't even work together with the resources you currently have to teach and train. I say focus on the black family, which is the creator, the black man, the black woman, and black children. We got to get back to some general community codes of conduct and family value system. And I think we do a lot of these callers and texting, all this philosophizing, but it's basic. It's basic. Family structure is where we lack, and those who sit in leadership, you all have the resources and the money, but you all don't come collectively on one page and say, hey, let's teach what you're saying. I got a facility over here you can use. Everybody wants their own identity, their own badge, and this is the reason we will not be successful until we set aside our personal ego and set aside our own ideology and get on rebuilding and re-strengthening the black family. I leave you with that, and I end with, and what now, black people.
Thank you, brother.
I think there was a lot of truth to that. And I would say to get started, there's three things we should focus on. We need an independent school. We need an independent credit union, because there's enough wealth in Chicago in terms of take-home pay that if we concentrated all of that in the same holding institution, there would be enough capital there to build or rehab some of these institutions that the caller said we already have. A big reason why black people are behind, we do not collectivize our dollars at all. They sit in white banks, and these white banks take black people's money in Chicago and loan to white developers from out of town to come into Chicago and push us out of our own neighborhood. 55% of the homelessness in Chicago are black people. 75% of the people living in shelters in Chicago are black people. If our money was in the same credit union, we would be able to offset a lot of this. So let's start with the black credit union. We definitely need a school to recapture the minds of our children. And the last one is a council of elders. We need a council of elders, because if the elders work together, a lot of the community conflict and differences could be handled if we had that governance structure in place. If you owe me money and you don't want to pay me, I'm taking you to the council of elders. Your child's father don't want to pay the child support, we go to the council of elders instead of running to the white man to solve internal black community problems that a council of elders could take care of themselves. I think a lot of trust could be restored. A lot of transparency could be restored if those over 65 would come together and create some sort of a system and a protocol, bring us back to council of elders.
That makes I get goosebumps hearing that, because I think of Common's words when he said we need the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy.
Yes.
Right? And that is so true. And we get away from both of those things. We
Yes.
discount, but especially our elders. We talked earlier again about the big mamas. And it wasn't just the big mama brought a sense of stability.
Yes.
And that's what you're describing,
Yes.
right? Older people, the seasoned people, the mature people help bring a sense of stableness and stability.
Structure and balance.
Thank you. And so again, I just wanted to amen that, because that made me excited. I'd never heard of it phrased that way, Council of Elders. I like that. But again, even if we never get to that point, I think we have to get back to the point of recognizing the wisdom of our elders.
Yes.
and how they can help us. So
yes.
We're right up on the break. It's 4:17. Bernard, Joe, Al Stone, we're going to take your calls next. Please keep your Facebook comments coming. This conversation isn't going anywhere. Dr. Ifatunde has been kind and gracious enough to hang with us for I ain't going to tell you how long. Just hang on. He here right now.
That's right.
He ain't going nowhere right now. We even tried to feed him. And he couldn't even,
Oh, I wanted some chicken. I'm a chicken man too. You notice I ain't even want to look at the chicken.
Yeah.
Because if I see that chicken, I'm gonna break my fast.
We're not gonna do
get
that.
me a piece right now. I'm so wrong.
So wrong. We'll be right back, guys.
And welcome back to WVON 1690. You are listening to the all-new afternoon show with Atiba and LaDonna Ray. And of course, in our studio, we have Dr. Ifatunde. And it's such a wonderful thing to have people put their comments on Facebook Live, and you can too. Make sure you share the show. If you go to Facebook and you look for WVON 1690, you'll see the live indicator showing that our show is in fact live. Make sure you comment so that we can read the comments later, and always share the show. All right. Well, Dr. Umar, let's talk about something that's been bothering a lot of us here in Chicago. Our public school system. I know everybody just went, okay. I mean, we're seeing literacy rates that in some schools are so low, it's heartbreaking and embarrassing. Kids are graduating without the ability to read fluently, and that's not just a tragedy, it's a setup. And now we look at it as a school to prison pipeline. What are we witnessing here? Because this dysfunction is an abomination to our success and our young people's success. What say you?
Well, first of all, you can't have failing communities without failing schools. So that's number one. A lot of the problems that we see here in Chicago or any other major predominantly black inner city is the fact that the schools are contributing to the psychopathology and the pathology in the surrounding neighborhoods, right? Then we have to look at the fact that Chicago only has 20% black teachers. It's dropped from 50 to 20 in 10 years, with 54% of Chicago's teachers being white people. And no, I'm not going to sit here and say every white teacher has a problem teaching black kids. I'm not going to say that. But being a former principal and a current school psychologist, I am going to say most white teachers do have a problem with black children because they're not natural stakeholders in the success of our children. And we got to keep in mind that the schools in the black community have to fail in order to protect and safeguard white privilege and white opportunity for the white youngsters who will graduate and then become leaders in the society. If our children are properly educated, they can challenge white people for political and economic control of this city and of this state. The power structure doesn't want that, so they create a system that makes it difficult for black children to exceed. And without a large population of black male teachers, it's going to be very difficult to get black boys focused again.
Sorry.
If you don't mind, just a very obvious question came to mind when you made that statement, the profound statement, by the way, which is this. if you're saying then that the system is broken,
Yes.
that's what I heard you
Yes.
say. Then the question becomes: do we change the system or do we abandon the system?
I would like for black people to abandon the system, because there's enough abandoned schools in Chicago that if we would just take Chicago's Christmas money, 4th of July money, Easter money, and New Year's money, we could buy about 4 or 5 schools and renovate them completely. And then we could pay our teachers to come out of the public school system and teach our children in schools that they own. Remember, for a long period, we couldn't go to their schools anyway, right? We couldn't even go. So let's go back to a time when education was under our control. And here's the biggest piece. A lot of people don't realize when they desegregated the schools in 1954, the Supreme Court, it wasn't to give black children an opportunity. It was because they were afraid that black children's education, despite it taking place in a dilapidated schoolhouse, was excelling that of the white students. Remember, we invented the gas mask before we sat next to white kids. We invented the refrigerated truck before we sat next to white kids. We came up with the technology for a lot of things before school desegregation. So desegregation was not about helping us. It was about controlling black excellence.
And controlling the academics.
Yes.
And what we did was basically we created things out of necessity.
Yes.
Because what we didn't have, we created.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned earlier, this was in between the microphone, when you were talking about you were interested in properties of schools that were located in better quality neighborhoods.
Well, no.
Okay.
In our neighborhood, but better quality school.
Okay.
In other words, I would see a school in Chicago, right, and say, this school look like it's only 5 years old. Yeah. I want to look in this and see what Chicago public schools are selling this for. And I would be told it's not available for you to look at. And when I say, why can't I look at it? They'll say it's just not available. Truth is, are the good conditioned schools in Chicago, Detroit, they're keeping them for the developers, the white developers. I've never been shown one of these 5 to 10 year recently built quality schools that don't even need much of a renovation. They show me schools with no roof, no back, water all in the basement. Why are you showing me this? It would take me, I might as well tear this down and build from the ground. They never gave me an opportunity to purchase a school in good condition.
What can be done about that? I mean, it sounds criminal to me.
It is criminal.
So what?
But remember, they shut the schools down to get rid of us, because you cannot gentrify a people out of a neighborhood if the schools are there for their children, because people live around the schools that teach their children. So if we want to get rid of black people out of Chicago, we got to get rid of the schools that teach their children. This is all part of the gentrification wave. And this is why black people in the predominantly black neighborhoods in Chicago, they can't even get a bank loan in order to purchase a piece of property in a low income neighborhood. Black people are paying the highest rent in the worst neighborhoods in Chicago. The highest rent in the worst neighborhoods in Chicago. And a big reason for that, I'm going to go to the elected officials. They're not putting enough pressure on these banks to stop practicing economic racism and discrimination against black people. How can you be paying the highest rent in the worst neighborhood and nobody's doing anything about it?
Wow. Let's get back to the phone lines. This has been very, very powerful. Bernard,
hey,
on
Bernard.
line 7. Thank you for calling.